Hello everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. I want to film another video. I've got in a bit of a bug of it really. I've been doing them all weekend, so there's things that they're going to be scheduled because some of them are for projects that are for further ahead. But I've got kind of into doing it, so I'm back again. Excuse the hair, I've just washed it. And I'm just leaving it to dry naturally, which means it doesn't look particularly brilliant, but you know, is what it is. I think what I'm going to do is go grab one of my boxes of random stamps. No, I'm not. I'm going to take some of the Stampin' Up stamps. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a card using stamps I've not used much. So I think I'm going to use Tropical Hideaway as a background stamp. And then I'd like to say stamps I've not used very much, but actually I've used this a lot. But splendid thoughts. Do I want to use that? No, I don't. No, I'm thinking not that because I have used that a lot. Do you know what? I'm going to decide a little bit further into the project. Tropical Hideaway. That's where I'm starting from. So I'm going to go and grab some supplies, turn the camera around, and then you can craft along with me, see what I make, because your guess is as good as mine. Okay, so I've grabbed this piece of like craft cardstock. Now it was obviously a card blank that I've just chopped the front half off for some reason. I can't remember the reason why. I'm sure there was a sensible, reasonable explanation. And I thought we'd have a go at stamping this gorgeous background stamp using the stamp platform and using some distress oxide onto that, and we'll see what happens. Yep, don't know what's going to happen, so we shall see. So probably because it's a full background stamp, so you can see it goes not quite to the edges, but it almost goes to the edges of there. But it's a full panel and it goes off the edges of the design, so it really won't matter if I'm sticking it in the middle like this. It is absolutely not going to cover the whole of this piece of cardstock. That's fine, I'll end up chopping it down. Right, I need to turn that around. It's a rubber stamp. Pick it up. But yeah, just thought I'd see what happens. So distress oxides are a pigment ink and they sit on the surface, which means you can stamp onto a darker colour cardstock. Not that this is particularly very dark, but it's clearly not white, is it? But yeah, they're like a hybrid ink, so they're part dye and part pigment. I love playing with distress oxides and I don't play with them enough, really. So I'm putting a good coating on this stamp, although to be honest, I'm in my stamp platform. I can very probably do this again. Now, I've been seeing some crafters have got these like tools that just allow them to press down really hard without using their own hands. I don't have one. This is not coming out as bright as I would hope. I'm not going to give in. I'm going to keep going. I actually stood up to try and apply a bit more pressure as well. But I'm wondering if peeled paint is not the right colour. Maybe we go for my favourite colour, which is Twisted Citron. I'm just trying to find it. Twisted Citron, really bright. So we'll see what happens with this one. Oh, it's providing something. I'm probably not coming out at all on the camera. This is what happens when you do craft along with me. It's all an experiment. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, because I certainly don't. Right, I'm just taking some ink off the stamp because this is a lighter colour, and because I'm putting it straight onto the ink pad, straight onto the stamp, I absolutely do not want the peel paint to go onto my favourite colour ink, which is this super bright Twisted Citron. It's very similar to the Parakeet Party, which is the Stampin' Up! One of the ink colours. That's better. Ooh, there's like a little bit in it there. Just need to get rid of that. Now it's quite juicy and quite wet, so we're going to ink up again. And we'll just see how this goes. I do love this stamp. That's better. That's giving me some really nice zingy and bright, and you can see there a reflection of the where it's sort of sticking up off the surface of the card, and for that reason we can go in with some clear, couldn't find my clear then, clear embossing powder, and this should hold on to the embossing powder nicely. Just like a Versamark would, and we should be able to emboss. Just need to grab some rough cardstock that I use for capturing. So you can see how that's all kind of gone now pale and a bit white in places, but when we melt that, that'll go clear, so you'll see that nice zingy colour underneath. At least that's the hope. Again, it's all an experiment. Who knows what will happen? Right, bear with whilst we put the heat tool on. Okay, so heating it up, what that's done is it's trapped that ink and it's trapped that colour, giving it a nice gloss obviously. I just need to make sure that it's all been covered, all been coated. I think there's a little patch up there. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's all of it covered. Now I need it to dry before I touch it, because I don't want to smudge any of my lovely work. I mean, it's gorgeous, isn't it? But quite subtle. It's not, I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm wondering if we do a bit of colouring in. Maybe that's what we'll do. So I'm going to take that same gorgeous Twisted Citron oxide ink, smudged a bit onto my block, and then I'm just going to take a brush with some water on it and just paint into some of the areas. Now, as it dries, it will fade a bit, as I think I've not got enough of the pigment on my brush. I just need to pick more up. Do also need the glasses on because I can't see what I'm doing. I think it's the mixture of the light shining on it, and the fact that these are very fine lines means that sometimes my eyes do not want to work. Obviously, we could say it's me getting older as well, couldn't we? Now, is this having the desired effect? We'll have to see as it dries. Let's pick another leaf and do another leaf. I might pick another colour of the oxides as well. I mean, you don't have to be super careful when you're doing this kind of work, because You know what? There's so many lines and so much texture going on. Who knows where you're meant to go and paint? I mean, I think I've got a fair idea of where the leaves are, but yeah, it's not the clearest of images when it's stamped like this. So you can see how this one's drying. It's sort of got a very sort of white look, really. So I'm just thinking I might grab another block, put the peeled paint down and see if that maybe offers me something different for a different leaf. Let's go with this one. I mean, it does offer a different tone, doesn't it? But not drastically different, and probably when it's dried I will not be able to tell the difference at all. I think that's the same kind of leaf. I mean, I'm trying to keep to the same leaf style for the same kind of ink colour. Let's go back to that one for this, because I think this is the same as that other one in that other corner over there. It really wouldn't matter if I got this wrong, but you know, I'm ahead. I like to try and get things right. I always find when you've got these sort of very detailed images like this, you're always missing a bit that you think, and then later you spot it. So like I've just spotted that that's one of these rounder leaves. And then I think we'll go for one more colour ink. Let's go for Mowed Lawn. It's sort of a cooler tone of green, definitely darker. Let's see what this adds in. Let's go with this kind of leaf. Ooh, that's a very vibrant green, isn't it? But will it dry vibrant? Very probably not. Let's keep going. That one is similar kind of leaf. What else have we got? Oh, I think that one there needs to be in the original. Probably watered that down a bit too much now. Well, it's definitely going a lot paler as it dries. Now, I know there's not much open space in these leaves, so we'll see what this does. I just think it might add something. And you can see there how it's sort of like the ink sort of puddles onto the embossing. So where the embossing is almost well, it is not almost, it is resisting the watery elements of the ink. So it might not add a huge amount to these ones because there's not a huge amount of open space on those leaves. But you know, we don't try, we don't know. I'm going to just do another patch of that Mowed Lawn. I think that's then coloured in all of the leaves. However, you can see there they've gone quite white and quite patchy, so that's probably the amount of water that I've added to the ink. So what happens is it reacts with the water, the stress oxide, and it kind of becomes almost powdery a bit, really. But it oxidizes, basically. I suppose the clue was in the name of the ink type. I'm just going to try and pick up that excess water without smudging the colour too much. There we go. So it's gone really mottled and a bit funky, but I actually really like it. I still don't know what to do with it, but I do really like it. So I'm thinking that's most of it. This baby wipe is almost dry. It's a really old packet of baby wipes that's very little liquid in it, so it's perfect for that. Although what would be even better is to just use the cloth, which is completely dry, as that allows me to wipe any of the ink off the actual embossing. Okay, so it's gone really strange. Do you know the ones that I like the least are probably the ones that are the Twisted Citron, which is hilarious because it's my favourite colour. But it's just oxidised and gone a little bit too white, so I am going to come in again and paint over with this Mowed Lawn, which, as you can see on these ones, has gone quite a dark, sort of more of a tealy green. So I'm wondering if that'll change by painting it over the top of what's already there, and whether it'll keep more of the vibrancy or not. We shall see. Distress oxides are quite good for layering on top of each other because of the fact they've got that pigment to them. So as I say, it might be just that I've mixed this with a bit too much water and therefore it's gone too oxidised, which is why it's more the white colour coming through. We shall see. Again, this is all an experiment. And what we'll end up with in the end, I have zero idea. I'm going to go back over the peeled paint leaves because, again, they're looking a little bit white. And I'm thinking that maybe now that I'm painting over that white, it might just maintain a bit more green. But I don't think I'm going to touch anything else. So let's just leave that one to dry for a bit. We'll do a bit of a clean up. And have a think about what I want to do to finish this card. Well, I'm saying card. I'm sure that's what I'm going to end up making. I'm going to keep my 3 oxide inks to one side so I know that I've got them just in case I need them to come back in and paint any more, or if indeed I want to use them for other elements. I think this is going to end up as a card. But let me go and do some thinking off camera, because otherwise you'll just sit here and listen to me going and ah for ages. Okay, I'm back. It's still drying, but what I've done is I've gone, and I'm really happy now with those colours. I think there's enough of the pigment coming through for it to work. But I went and had a little hunt through my stamps. Now, I had a look and there weren't the Stampin' Up ones that I wanted to use today. But I suddenly remembered I've got these Jofi ones from Paper Artsy. And I thought that this particular image would be a fabulous focal image behind that, with that background behind it in some way. And then I thought, oh, that's a really nice colour. Now, I think this is the Pale Papaya. And I think this is now probably retired. Yeah, I think it's retired. So I don't think you can get this particular colour anymore, but it's like a really lovely, pretty peach colour. And I thought it would be nice with the craft and those sort of muted greens. And I thought we could always add in some of the Distress Oxides onto it as well, in the same approach if needs be. But yeah, we'll see. So what I thought I'd do is I would stamp it using Vintage Photo Distress Oxide and do the same thing in terms of the clear emboss, because I think that that'll add a nice effect. It'll tie it back in again, and then we'll see whether we want to colour it, how we want to colour it. But that's what this is my plan at the moment. Again, this is a no planning video, so let's just experiment. The first experiment has not gone exactly as I guessed it might, but I really love it, so I don't care. So I'm actually going to stick this up in the corner over here because I'm thinking I'm going to fussy cut it out. It gives me a nice big space to work with. And I might even stamp it twice. So again, I'm going to go Distress Oxide. I'm making sure I've got lots of ink on it, but I'm probably going to ink it at least twice. Yeah, I'm going to definitely need to ink it at least twice. I'm going to need to make sure I press down in all areas as well. Would be handy. Right, yeah, and one more time for good luck. I'm not entirely sure whether it's this Distress Oxide ink pad. Might not be quite as juicy as those greens were. Let's see. Is it juicy enough to grab the embossing powder? I think it is. Didn't grab it. Yeah, nice. Right, heat time. Like it. Right, I'm going to just turn it around and stamp it again, because you know what, even if I don't use it on this project, it's a gorgeous image and I'm sure I'll use it on another one at some point soon. Let's get rid of the embossing powder and put the lid on. So we think we might have finished with that bit for now. Pop that over to one side and let's heat this up. Right, I have grabbed 3 more Distress Oxides, and we're going to have another go at painting now. This is a different cardstock from that craft, because the craft is not Stampin' Up cardstock. And I know that this is quite a porous cardstock, whereas the craft might not have been as porous. So I'm not entirely sure how this will go. But again, we've stamped 2, so if it's all rubbish, it really won't matter. I'm going to start with a fairly generous yellow wash. I'm keeping it quite loose because it really won't matter if it goes over the edge, because I'm going to fussy cut it out, but also I kind of want a loose look to this because the background looks quite loose despite all of the detail. So what's happening here is we're getting quite a lot drying quite quickly, so I'm just going to go in with that orange and just so the orange is spiced marmalade, yellow is the fossilized amber, and then I've got red being fired brick. Don't need as much of the fired brick, so I'm just going to go in at the edge there. And even though it's not a watercolour paper or cardstock, it does allow you to do a little bit of a watercolour effect if you're quick. I think that's lovely. Whether I like it to go with that, I don't know that I do. But I'm going to leave it to dry, and because it's not been a complete disaster, I'm going to go back to the greens. Now I'm now doing it on this sort of peachy coloured cardstock, but I don't care. Oh, sorry, hit the camera. I'm going to try and do greens. Oh, look at the colour of that. That's so gorgeous. I do love the lime. It's so pretty. Oh, see, I love that. I love both of them, but for different reasons. And I'm thinking the green, if anything is going to go with that background, it's going to be that one. I'm still not convinced it goes. I think maybe I've made a mistake in stamping it in the brown colour. I think we need to dry it off. It needs to dry naturally because of that embossing. It needs to dry naturally. So I'm going to leave it to one side to dry, and perhaps we're going to have a think about this lovely background and how we might use it, because I'm now not at all convinced it goes with the flower. I might need to think of something completely different to use it. Right, I think first things first, let's do a little bit of a top so we get rid of all those rough edges, and it might give us more of an inspiration as to how to use it. Oops. Right, so we now have a nice firm panel. as much as I love it, it's just not speaking to me at the moment. I'm wondering. I don't know what I'm wondering, but I'm wondering something. So, not in the black, but I'm wondering about butterflies. I'm also looking at all the little bits and pieces. I have like a little tray of randomness. I'm wondering about that with a circle underneath it and maybe just a bold sentiment. Okay, that's speaking to me more. Right, so this might end up being two completely different projects. So I'm actually thinking I'm going to try and trim this down a bit more. It is now going to be 9.5 centimetres across. I'm not sure what height it is. It's probably about the right height for a card blank, but I might trim that down later. And I'm thinking we might need some kind of die cut here. I do think it needs to be light, so maybe white, and then we need a sentiment across the top. Right, let's do that. Bear with. Okay, I'm back. I have die cut using the, what are they called, seasonal labels dies. Using this one, the panel, and I'm thinking if I use that underneath the gorgeous gold tree, I think that'll work well with this because it's almost got a golden kind of look to it with it being embossed on that brown. I think that's probably my best bet. I mean, I'm contemplating whether I also want to put that across. No, I don't. Right, that's where we're going with this. So let's first of all, let's glue this. I mean, the lesson is always not to glue anything until you're absolutely convinced you're doing the right thing. But in this case, I'm feeling so undecided. That could take several hours before I'd be completely decided. So I'm just going to actually go for it. And I'm literally just putting some tiny dots of glue because it's so filigree, you don't want too much. And that should be enough to just hold that in place. It's relatively straight. I might end up chopping a little bit of the stem off and it not being quite as long. But that will, because it's a high tack glue, it will hold it in place. I do think it'll need raising up, so I need to get some bone to just go behind that shape. Thinking that will probably work nicely. Where's my scissors? Probably enough. Yeah, that's nice. And now I'm going to go really nuts because I think what I'd love now is linen thread. I'm pretty convinced I don't have any left. I really need to put an order in for some more, but let's see from the ribbon box what we have got. I mean, do you know what? I could just use this. Yep, I'm going to use that. I'm going to get myself a fairly generous amount. There we go, probably far more than I needed. Don't know why it's got a little knot in it. That's very annoying. I have to cut that off and have two separate pieces of thread, which is fine because I've got loads of it off. Right, do we want it going behind the back of it? I think we do. So my quickest and easiest way of doing these things is to use a bit of sellotape. just going to wrap it a few times. We're going to go like that. Oh, we can only do 3 times, right. We can only do it 3 times. That'll have to do. Try and straighten them up in some way in a minute. Let's see what we can do. Does that one need to go? That'll do. Keep that one down there a little bit. This one up there. Nice. Right. Be like so. And then we're going to just pop a little smidgen of that foam out, because I think we're going to have to stick it down with a gap between them so that they don't go actually on the twine I've just put down. Can I squidge that twine in between the foam? Yeah, like so, you see. It's going to work. And then do we want a big bow? I think we do. Now, how do we do a sentiment? What kind of sentiment do we want? I almost want one that just says hi or hey or something on it. I don't think I want anything specific. I am going to glue these down. Again, I'm breaking the rule of don't glue things down until you're completely certain, but it's partly because I just, this is not, well, there was no plan, but it's definitely not going to plan. Having done a whole different kind of main image, I normally use a glue dot for twine. I don't know why I decided to use liquid glue then. That's very unusual for me. Don't know whether that'll even stick, but we can try. Right, I'm going to have a look for a sentiment, bear with. Okay, so we've got these Avery owl, and I'm wondering about the hey or the hello. I think hey. I have got a die to put it out with. I'm thinking it needs to be on white in order to stand out a little bit, but I'm not quite sure what colour to go. Might be embossing gold actually. Might be the best bet to go with those gold elements. So let's grab the gold embossing powder. I'm going to use my embossing buddy just because I don't want those bits of gold to stick where they shouldn't be. Slightly different when you're using a clear emboss. You don't probably need to use the embossing buddy quite the same. Stick it down. I have now lost, there it is, my green piece of cardstock. There it is. Okay, the aim was to not get a bobbly finish, but I got a bobbly finish regardless, so I mustn't have done very well with the inking of the stamp. Probably if I'd used a stamp platform, I'd have stamped it twice and it would have done it better, but yeah, but I don't mind, that's okay. It's not awful. Right, let's get a die. I need to die cut it. Okay. Right, I don't think I need the 2 pieces of tape that seem to be on it. I shall just die cut this out. Okay, gorgeous. Now I'm going to die cut it another couple of times just to stack. If you're not sure what I mean by stacking, well, it's something that Jennifer Maguire does a lot of, and I watch quite a lot of her videos, but it just gives like more dimension to your die cutting, so it gives it some strength. And I just show you what I mean. Sometimes I use liquid glue and sometimes it's Pritt stick. I just want to make this tacky and add the next one on. Liquid glue does give you a little bit more wriggle room than the Pritt stick, but it's not that fine a die. So if it's a finer die, I definitely use the liquid because you really want to wriggle that one. Whereas this is quite an easy to line up one in the first place. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a hiccupy thing going on. Right, but you see how that now becomes quite a beefy embellishment rather than something that's likely to bend and warp in the post or sag a bit when it's on display. I just think that adds a little bit more. So I really like when she does that. I mean, she probably wouldn't have used foam tape for the background of this. She probably would have die cut it a couple of times to make it stand up. Now, hey, or just a note to say hey, or hey friend. Just a note to say hey. I think that's a nice one to use. Oh, wipe off my stamp before I realise I've got Versamark all over the place. Now, I am going to put this onto the cardstock because I think that'll look nice, but I'm wondering about white embossing it. So that's an embossing powder I didn't get out. Hang on. So on this card we've used gold, clear, and we're now going to use white because you know that's what I do. So this is just a piece of that cardstock. You can see that I cut off from the edge, so I know it's all going to match up. I am going to put it on a white note card blank. I might have to just trim down the height of it a little bit to make sure it fits. Use that. Let's see how this looks. Do you know what? If it doesn't look great, it doesn't look great. It's all an experiment, as I've been saying. I have to say, those flowers that I did earlier are looking gorgeous. Still not completely dry though. There's still some drying to be done. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. they are probably going to be on a different video. Right, let's heat emboss this. Okay, I definitely think that one's come out much nicer than that one, so we're going to use that one for the card. And I am just going to fussy cut these because I can't be bothered fiddling with the trimmer to try and get them lined up perfectly. Just a note to say, hey, do we like that there? I think we do. Right, that means we need a little bit of foam, and we've got a little bit that we cut off earlier. I think we need to make it a bit shorter, but just to go on one side of the sentiment. Far too much glue, Catherine. Well, it'll stick. But this way we know it's going to be a similar height to that embellishment there, and it's not going to look strange. I've realised I am daft, sorry. I'm just going to do that again because I've put glue on one side of it and forgot to put glue on the bottom of the foam. Right, try again. Just going to move that out of the way a minute. Just hold it in place. And I think we'll just temporarily pop that on the top. Right. Because there's embossing, it's really important. If you've got anything that's got like a shinier surface, that you make sure you use the right kind of glue for that. Embossing or a foiled surface doesn't tend to need a little bit more glue, or a liquid adhesive or something along the lines of a high-tack glue, that kind of thing, because otherwise it's not necessarily going to adhere particularly well, because it's not porous. And shiny surfaces, things like tape pens or double-sided adhesive, doesn't tend to stick as well. I'm just going to use that H to just adhere it a little bit. It's actually struggling to stick on that side, so I might have to just go and do something with that, not sure what. I do think I'm going to just trim the end off this just a little bit, not the full amount off, but it just seemed a little bit too tall for the embellishment. So I think that's a really nice card front. I do need to think about what sort of card it's going on, so let's go see if we can find a card blank. Okay, found, well, I've actually had to make a white top folding card blank. A little bit of fuzz because I need to change the blades on my paper trimmer. Let's just do a quick tidy. I think that'll be perfect as a card blank for that. And I also found an envelope that's craft, which is perfect for this whole thing. So just need to stick that down. That does seem to have stuck. The twine seems to have stuck in place, which I'm quite happy about. Now I'm going to lift the backing off this tape because we might as well use that adhesive whilst we've got it. And also, again, shiny surfaces don't tend to stick very well. So let's get rid of the shiny bit that clearly is designed to not stick. And this time we are going to use our Pritt stick, a reasonable amount of it, just to, okay, I'm going to just get rid of some of that wine. That's all right. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, Pritt stick to just stick it down. Again, there is only a tiny amount of wiggle room when it comes to Pritt stick, but there is a little bit. So just allows you to just adjust it in place. There wasn't a huge amount of wiggle room as well because of course I've got that double-sided adhesive on the back. But yeah, just a note to say hey, with a lovely little bow, nice gold embellishment. That sentiment is nice and chunky, it looks really nice. I'm really happy with that, considering I didn't really know where I was going with it at all. I'm really happy with that. My flowers are here ready for another project, so I might just stop this video and then start the next one to perhaps use these. There's been a bit of bleeding around some of them, but it looks really funky. I really like those, so they'll probably be on a future video. If not, check out my blog because I'm bound to use them at some point. And I hope you enjoyed. So that was me randomly crafting, using the Tropical Hideaway as my starting point, using loads of Distress Oxides and a bit of a watercolour effect onto the craft cardstock, and I'm really happy with the finished card, which really is saying something because halfway through I really didn't think I'd end up using that panel at all. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll take some pictures in the natural light because this does add a little bit of a yellow tone to it, I know that much, and stick them at the end of the video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to put a thumbs up. Comments in the thing below. How would you do it? Would you have come up with something different? Would you have ended up using that with it or not? Please do let me know. I'm always interested to hear what other people think. And until next time,